Welcome to Podcast Reflection 7. This is Era Sunbom, and this is the last podcast reflection for ISDT 7354. I listened to a podcast this week on Recode Decode with Kara Swisher with an interview with CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Now, I want to preface this by saying I participate in social media and I enjoy social media, but also I recognize that there are concerns with using social media and the internet as a whole, and a lot of those have to do with security. So this was a really interesting podcast to listen to for me. Computer security, while it's important, isn't really something that I study a lot, and I am married to an IT manager who, will certainly yell at me about not changing my password enough and so forth. But this stuff is really, really important, so I'm glad that I actually listened to this podcast. So previously, we talked about how physical activity can benefit brain function, keep the brain young, promote neurogenesis, and improve mood. So last week, we talked about how Katia Levesque is interested in how the long-term effects of mental health in doctoral candidates is very important, because research quality is at stake. So we want to have healthy and happy and inspired and motivated doctoral candidates so that we can have good research that will benefit our community and our world. So this week I thought about the social aspect of exercise. And the Department of Kinesiology and Health at Georgia State University has studied the effect on Facebook delivery of physical activity interventions. The results indicated that behavioral changes can occur, which indicates promising results for using social media as a tool for health interventions. So this could be in the form of a Facebook group or something on Twitter. But this is a huge undertaking in the healthcare arena that can happen to help everybody to be healthier and more motivated. Myself, I have a Facebook group that I am in at my job, and we do like a Biggest Loser competition and also a physical activity competition that inspires us, and we can share our results, and we can share funny pictures and memes and jokes and things like that. So the social aspect of these is very intriguing to me, as is the social aspect of most technology. I'm also interested in how social interactions affect online learning and so on and so forth. So I think that technology has a huge social aspect to it, and I'm not sure that that's really been researched that much, but it's definitely an interest of mine. So going on to talk about Mark Zuckerberg. As I said, he's the CEO of Facebook, and something interesting that I found about him is there's a public discourse available called the Zuckerberg Files, and basically what this is a curation of things that Mark Zuckerberg has said publicly, curated all the way for since Facebook started, which that's a huge wealth of information. So I haven't read it, but I did learn about that today, and it's something that I would like to go back and look at. That's definitely interesting. So in 2004, Facebook was originally created to connect college friends. So today, it's one of the world's largest social media services. And in this podcast, they talked about the social and ethical responsibilities of the company Facebook regarding social problems. So that's a huge issue in IT, and it has been for a long time. And dealing with cybersecurity and things like that, and where does the responsibility end, and where does it begin? So that's a big thing for IT people to think about when they are creating information technology utilities and tools. One of the things that they said in the podcast was that Mark Zuckerberg referred to Facebook as a utility. Well, that's what it is. It's a program for people to use. So it's a utility, just like Microsoft Excel would be a utility. So some key points that they brought up are the ethics and the dark side of social media. Lately, Facebook has been under fire for community misconduct, so meaning that community members are doing things they shouldn't on Facebook. So the big question is, what are the responsibilities of the company to society in mitigating these things? How much Big Brother do we want? Do we want everybody watching everything that we do online or not? So privacy and freedom of speech really become big issues when we're talking about these things. And Mark Zuckerberg has handled these questions and issues with great grace. And surely when he created Facebook, he didn't realize that these issues were going to come up, because generally that's what happens. We create these things to help people, and then we don't see the other side, the bad side, the evil side, if you will. So what are the responsibilities of Silicon Valley? So the dark side issues can include terrorism, self-harm, bullying, suicide, election interference, fake news, privacy, identity theft. So some, things that were discussed about these were, yes, there's a certain extent that they can intervene. So they have teams at Facebook that monitor videos, and they have artificial intelligence that can identify things so that the teams can go and check things out and try to help people in a better way. Last week in our podcast, Cooper talked about building teams to work on issues, and that's something that Mark Zuckerberg had to do a lot to make sure that Facebook runs as efficiently and ethically as it can. Steve Case also spoke about unintended results of technology and the social responsibilities of the internet as a whole. And then Dory Clark spoke about Janusian thinking and transparency. And Janusian thinking is thinking about something as an idea, but also the opposite of the idea. So thinking, hey, if I create this great social platform, what is the opposite of that? What are the bad things that can happen from it? So it's about open-mindedness, and then also about transparency. And Mark Zuckerberg, as demonstrated in the Zuckerberg files, is a very transparent leader, and that's really important to leadership styles, especially in something like social media technology. So coming back from last week, we heard from Cooper about connecting with people and connecting ideas with one another. So we talked about caring and learning about people and using topics to connect people's interests, and that connectors connect on common ground. And this is something that is huge in Facebook and other social media. That's what the whole idea is, to connect people. So what's in the immediate future for Facebook? Listening to the podcast really made me realize that Mark Zuckerberg is committed to a service leadership mindset. he cares about people and started the company to help people. So he admits and realizes that there are some issues and plans to work on mitigating them by the end of 2019. He also takes an enormous amount of responsibility for his company and makes a few jokes throughout that he isn't going to fire himself yet, but that he is responsible and nobody's going to get fired for these issues, and they're, aware and working on them. But he takes a huge amount of responsibility for trying to fix the problems that come about. He also says that people need community support and that 200 million people on Facebook are part of a meaningful group. And that is something that will reverse the trend of community breakdown that we've seen in the past several decades. People are connecting with each other to help each other. That's a beautiful thing. Also, we're able to capture the human experience with greater fidelity and richness is a direct quote from this podcast. And that really touched me because Zuckerberg believes that virtual reality and augmented reality are going to be a huge part of the future. And he talks about the growth of technology going from text to images and then to video and finally to virtual and augmented reality. These are huge, huge steps that we've been able to make in the past several decades and are continuing to make great strides. So my tech tip today is I wanted to do something about cybersecurity. So I looked up the Cybersecurity Awareness Month and signed up to be a Cybersecurity Awareness Champion. So when you sign up for this, you get this email and a lot of different items that will help you to promote cybersecurity during the month of October on your campus or at your organization. You can also go to the website staysafeonline.org. There's a ton of resources there, and I encourage anybody to go and learn about cybersecurity because information is really important to keep yourself safe. As for my personal leadership plans, as I said, I am signed up to be a champion for NCSAM, and I plan to educate for responsible social media use and promote cyber safety. This all goes along with the research that I've been doing about digital competency and my frustrations that computer skills are lacking in many of our students, that this is a nationwide problem and we don't teach about computers as we should. And of course, cyber safety is part of that initiative. So I'm excited to be able to promote this, and I'm excited to sign up to be a NCSAM champion. Thanks for listening to this podcast review. I've enjoyed presenting, and stay tuned for more tech tips starting next month. Have a great day.